Okay, we are live. Hi, Christine. I see that in the chat. Hi, Desiree. We are live on Facebook, and I will hit record, and then I'll go ahead and get started with the opening announcements.
Awesome.
All right, so we are recording. Welcome, everyone. My name is Noelle, and I will be helping out with today's Armed with Faith program. We love hearing from you around the world, so please share in the sidebar chat or in the Facebook comments where you're joining from. And we are a welcoming community, available any day, anytime, anywhere. We always love hearing from you, and we love hearing your thoughts and ideas. So feel free to ask questions in the sidebar chat throughout the show, or raise your hand. We will have some time for Q&A later. As always, be respectful and polite with the opinions of others. Please remain muted when you aren't speaking if you're with us on Zoom. And also note that this is a live program. It's being shared on our Moujaes Facebook page, and it's also being recorded for our website. So you'll find the recording of this and other programs at myousn.net after the show, and you can share it with anyone who wasn't able to be here today. The Orthodox Christian Network is a 501c3 corporation and a 100% donor-supported ministry. You can find our calendar of upcoming events on our website at myousn.net, as well as daily articles, live radio, live worship, and a lot of other resources. So tonight's program is the second program, maybe our first official program in the Armed with Faith series, which is a weekly program focused on ways to serve our youth and bring them to a better understanding of Christ and his church. And our host for Armed with Faith is Father Gary Kyriakou, who serves the metropolis of San Francisco as the pastor of youth and young adult ministries, and also the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America as the director of Ionian Village.
Awesome.
I'll turn things over to you, Father Gary.
Thank you, Noelle. I really appreciate that. We'll start with a quick little prayer, and then from there, we'll move into the program. So I want to thank everyone for being here, those who are live with us here on screen and those who are listening elsewhere and on Facebook. So thank you for being here. The prayer that I'd like to share is from the Divine Liturgy, where just before the priest reads the gospel, he reads a silent little prayer. And that prayer goes like this. Let us pray to the Lord. Lord, have mercy. Illumine our hearts, O loving Master, who loves all of mankind, with the pure light of your divine knowledge, and open the eyes of our mind to understand your gospel teachings. Implant in us also fear for your blessed commandments, so that trampling down all carnal desires, we may enter on a spiritual path of living that is both pleasing to you. For you are the illumination of our souls and bodies, O Christ our God, and to you we ascribe glory, together with the Father, who is from everlasting, and your all holy, good, and life-giving Spirit, now and forever, and to the ages of ages. Amen. Well, welcome again, everyone. It's nice to be here. I'm with a good friend, Michelle.
Come on, say it.
Moujaes, right?
Everybody's my last name because no one knows how to say it.
Never able to say it right. So we'll start off I've been practicing it all weekend and all day, and I just choked. Okay. But anyways, Michelle is the founder and the executive director of Faithtree Resources. It's a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Los Angeles, California. Faithtree creates resources to help Orthodox Christians learn and live the faith. After graduating from Boston University, opening my own parentheses here, that's where Michelle and I met. She was in Boston the same time I was at the seminary. She finished with a degree in social work and community organizing, including coursework, emphasis on theology, and organizing communities of faith. She began working for a variety of agencies, including the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research, Monster.com's Making It Count program, Massachusetts Coalition for the Homeless, and their Easter Seals School for Children with Autism. She has led in a variety of roles within the Orthodox Christian Church, including the New England Regional Youth Director for the Antiochian Orthodox Christian Archdiocese of America, the Metropolitan Committee Chair in Los Angeles for International Orthodox Christian Charities, a member of the Orthodox Christian Fellowship's National Board of Directors. She's the founding chair of St. Elijah Orthodox Church Elementary School programming in Oklahoma City, among others. Michelle is happily married to the kindest man in the universe. He really, really is. Waleed is a great guy, and together they have 4 children, Dmitry, Alexander, Jonah, and Sabine. When she's not speaking or creating content for Faithtree resources, you might find her speaking internationally on the topic of autism and interventions for adults and children with extraordinary needs, or volunteering at St. Michael Church in Van Nuys, the home parish where she and her family attend. Van Nuys is right here in Southern California. So thrilled to have you, Michelle. Really excited about you being here with us, and wanted to just jump right into it and talk about Faithtree and the things that you do with Faithtree and how that can benefit our listeners and the work that they do with their parishes and even just in their homes with their kids. So with that, I wanted to ask you, can you tell us just a little bit about Faithtree and how it got started?
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for having me. It's fun to be here amongst friends and meet new people and see new faces. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk about some of the work we're doing. Faithtree is a nonprofit 501c3 organization here in California. And we're really passionate about one thing, which is helping Orthodox Christians learn and live the faith. And so we create a variety of resources to do that. Mostly we find ourselves in the realm of small group studies. So we create opportunities for people to go back to the local parish and engage with their pastor, others in their community. And even, sometimes we see a lot of fantastic pan-Orthodox community around these studies. So that tends to be kind of our little niche, if you will, but we do have some other efforts that kind of go outside of that. Ministry starters, ways to help churches become more disability friendly, or to build into some leadership issues, things like that. So
how did it develop? When did it develop? How old is Faithtree? And what was the purpose for its impetus? How did it start?
So really, we started at one parish, an Antiochian parish, St. Michael's in Van Nuys, where my husband and I, who had been living on the East Coast, brought our family back home to Los Angeles, where I grew up. And our priest, when we got here, Father Timothy Backlig, had reached out and said, would you consider helping really figure out why so many people at St. Michael's were on the periphery of church life? Like, where were they? He knew I had a background in macro community organizing, and I had done some work in ministry. And so he and I kind of set out just to answer that question. And what we found, Father, is that for many of our people, there was a disconnect between actually living the faith and what was happening in the life of the church and what was happening when they took their kids to the ball field or when they had to pay their taxes and things of that nature. And so we said, well, how would we solve that problem? And ultimately what it came down to was we met with every member of the church, every founder of the church, their children, their grandchildren, and anyone in between. And we found the need expressed that for many people, there was a disconnect based on understanding the beautiful and rich and lofty theology that the church offers us and bringing it down into really, American speak. And so we started seeing how we could teach the fullness of the faith in the language of our day. That's how it started.
Very good. And so was it just then a parish obligation? How did it grow from just being a parish obligation?
So, God is good. We had at our very first meeting, we had 3 people. And by the end of that first year, we hosted 1,500 at an event. And so we just were really taken aback. But we had several principles for the way that we created content, if you will. So the first thing is that every effort we made had 3 components. One was that it had to have a content piece, right? So we kind of gauged the needs of our people in our parish. Then it really had to have a coaching piece where we really gave people like practical application, which is something we're very interested in. Like, we want to know, what do we get up and do? And then the third piece was always the community piece. So really building the relationship. Everything we do focuses on relationship between us and God, us and each other, us and our spiritual fathers or the pastors in our communities. And so it just started to grow very quickly. In fact, I think the first thing that happened was our third event. We just started hosting monthly events, but our third event, somebody said, would you film it? And so we said, yeah, we'll film it. What do we care? We have, a bunch of videographers and filmmakers here in California and Los Angeles. And so they filmed it, and then it very quickly got spread around. So, and that was 2012 or maybe 13.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, in Los Angeles, you'd be hard pressed not to find somebody who knows how to videotape or not tape anymore, but digital. But tell me, you said the 3 things: needs of the people in the parish, something to do, like an action item that they took with them to get done, and then community building. Let's go with.
We say 3: coaching, content, coaching, and community. Yeah.
What was the need the people in the parish expressed, if you can remember the greatest need that they wanted in those early days?
Sure. Well, what we found was all of the needs for most of us are generally the same. How we talked about it might have been a little different. So we didn't talk about, cataphatic theology or Old Testament wisdom and apophatic theology. We talked about the how-tos of forgiveness, right? We brought it to very, very bite-sized chunks for so many of us, myself included, who really were interested in more deeply understanding and experiencing the rich fullness of the faith without changing it, but in a language we understood, which was highly visual. It was highly soundbitey in so many ways, and that was very relational. We learned so much these days relationally. So that's how we started there.
So real quick, I want to explain how you and I reconnected after 20 years of being away, because it's a good story. And I was looking for something when I was a parish priest at St. Demetrios. I was looking for a different kind of a youth ministry program, and I was scrolling the internet, looking and scratching in the surface for whatever I could find, and I found a video with your speaker. Tell me his name again. No, the host of the relationship.
Oh, Cooper.
I was going to say Connor, and I knew that would be wrong. So Cooper, right? And over his left shoulder was an icon of the Virgin Mary. And I was like, what are these Protestants doing with an icon of the Virgin Mary? And as I started looking at it, I recognized your name. I recognized Dr. Philip Mamalakis, recognized a bunch of people who were on there, right? And got it. And you know that I became a huge fan of the Relationship Project, which is produced by Faithtree. And I've seen a lot of great results from that. So you and I re-engaged, started talking about those things. I've used the Relationship Project several times, so I know the benefits of it. But can you tell us how some of the other people have benefited from using not only the Relationship Project, but other programs and content that you all put out?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, again, we're humbled. We're just a small and scrappy group of, people here at St. Michael's Church, and now it's grown, who are passionate about the church and seeing our young people stay close to the church and tied to the church. And so we're still figuring a lot of things out along the way, but God has been super gracious. And so we had some core principles. We've spent a lot of time studying and meeting with, our mainline Christian friends in the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church to see how they deliver things in such a way that people can receive it. And so what we found is there are some best principles for small group study, and that group learning is really, really effective. And so what that looks like is, as we created content, we were focused on making it super easy for our priests or whoever the priest designates to use the content. So that's one thing that we take very seriously. We do not think people should be doing church at home by themselves. It's just not our tradition. It's not our way. So we went to great lengths to make sure that our hierarchs and our clergy could with confidence know that the content that we offer is uniquely Orthodox and that it has been vetted every way we know how. And so if I could just speak to that for 1 second, because I think that's kind of what adds so much benefit for churches who have had success. We take very seriously, what Paul says in Titus, where you hand down the faith just as it was delivered to you. So we're not interested in making up our own theology. So the way that we do that is we invite a pan-Orthodox group of influencers on whatever subject that we are creating content about. So for the Relationship Project, it was about identity and intimacy and mental health and teaching our youth. So we brought together over 50 different bishops and priests and, seminary professors from Holy Cross, youth workers from across the country, clinicians, and we battled it out for 1.5 years until we all agreed that the content was uniquely Orthodox and that it also was engaging and that it would be, fun for our young people to go through, and that it was safe for them, that we were teaching the Orthodox faith, and that our youth workers, my kids always say, please make sure it's not lame. So we made sure that our youth workers and parents and teens actually vetted it. And so when you ask how do people utilize it, I think they utilize it when it's push and play. So when you wonder if I have one here. Oh, I do have one here. I have when you buy the Relationship Project, which is a 12-week program, we send you this book, which literally has every single word a clergyman or whoever he designates would have to say. And it will literally, in the middle of the book, it'll say, push play now. And then the video will come on. And that's where all the vetted theology will be talked about in real life language with, pretty, I would say, we spend a lot of time and effort and resources on high quality production. We have a lot of film and television folks here in Los Angeles, so we take that seriously. That's how our kids learn these days. And then because it's low impact on the clergyman and because it's been so heavily vetted, they bring somebody else to step in for them, and it just makes it easy. It makes
Very
it
good. Michelle, that as I did the Faithtree's Relationship Project, I must have done it maybe a half dozen times. I can't remember now because I've done it with so many different groups. So often I did it on Zoom. I did it in person in our home. Told you how great it was how successful it was here in Camarillo. We were doing it on Monday nights, and kids were taking Uber to get here to make sure that they could be here for it so that they wouldn't miss. It was an awesome, awesome program. And then from that, we asked His Eminence Metropolitan Committee of our metropolis to purchase it for every one of the parishes in the metropolis. And that went over well. What kind of response did you get from those parishes here in the metropolis of San Francisco?
So the Family Wellness Center in the metropolis, Metropolitan Yerasimos, he was brave. He was our first hierarch who said, I want everyone to have this. And he bought almost 70 copies. And then this team in the metropolis of San Francisco, I wish every one of us had a team like this, because you had all these clergy and you had all these PhDs and Dr. George Papa George and their wives who had their own influence and expertise, who came together, and you, Father, were a part of that. And they literally, with fervor that, I was envious of, said, we are going to create something to help the parishes of our metropolis. And so they had us we were highly engaged with them, but we met with Metropolitan Erasmus. We met with people in his kind of leadership team. We met with priests, we met with youth workers, we met with parents, and we all walked through 12 weeks of, I would say, really important content for us to know, as it has to do with good mental health for our young people, dealing with issues like intimacy and identity. And so it was executed wonderfully. And I think it bore a lot of fruit. We're still learning about so much of the fruit that was born from that effort. So,
we know that it wasn't prepared to be used during the pandemic. And I know that a lot of people wrestled with whether or not that forum was a good forum and an intimate forum for it to be used. But I can just tell you that it worked really well in regards to the pandemic and using it to have a conversation with some of the kids in the area. But it works even better in person than when you're together. But for anybody that still has groups that are on Zoom and want to do it, they can gather with Zoom and get that together. What could a parish, if there's a priest here from a small parish in another metropolis, another jurisdiction, or if there's a member of a parish here that's in the metropolis of San Francisco, and they're like, I haven't heard of this, I haven't heard of the Relationship Project, can they still call their parish priest and say, hey, can we get our hands on this?
For sure.
Tell us how that can work out.
So the way that you actually, on the Relationship Project, just that specific product, the way that it's delivered is that when a church actually purchases the Relationship Project, we ship them the hard copy so that they have it if they want to hold it. Then online, they get a digital copy so they can share it with any youth worker that they want to have access and teach. Because sometimes, if you have 30 kids in a group, you want to be able to have multiple hands and multiple touch points. So you have it digitally. And then you also get all of the theology taught in videos, short videos that just kind of play out what that teaching segment for the week is. And you also get a library of tutorial videos, because what our youth workers across the country and across every jurisdiction told us was that, people need best practices. We now have different issues to think about that many of us, I've been doing youth work for decades, but there are a lot of new things that I didn't anticipate. And so we have a library of videos to kind of help navigate what's a red flag, how do you engage a small group, how do you engage a larger group. So they get access to all of that digitally, and they get hard copies of the book. So if somebody's in specifically the metropolis of San Francisco, absolutely reach out to your parish priest, and they can give you the hard copies, and always reach out to Faithtree. If you go to info@faithtree.org, we'll give digital access to any church who's utilizing the program. We always want the priest to be in the loop. We never want to kind of circumvent the pastoral ministry. Our passion is really supporting the pastoral ministry. So long as he's in the loop, and if he instructs us to give it to 8 people, we'll give it to 8 people. So that
I love that, Michelle. I love that you keep the clergy involved and knowing that, because that's what builds the community, right? And we, with the clergy as responsible for the souls of his people and doing those things, really, really important. What else does Faithtree have? You know, I'm excited about the relationship project, but that's not what Faithtree is. They're more than just the relationship project. You guys have a lot of things in your arsenal. What are some other things that you've produced and you have? And why should somebody go to faithtree.org?
Sure. So our very first program was for men. We always poll our clergy and ask what the needs of the parish are. And when we started, back almost a decade ago, the first thing they all told us, 100% of the dozens, we talked to dozens of clergy, and 100% of them said, please start with men. They're dying on the vine. They need support. They need community. And so we created a 4-part series called the Lionheart Sessions. And the Lionheart Sessions was taught by a pan-Orthodox group of professors and, seminary professors, bishops, priests, and they came together and ultimately talked about Christian manhood in 4 sessions. And so that was our first one. We have an effort to make our churches more disability friendly. 1 out of 5 people in the Orthodox Church, and every church has some sort of a disability, and oftentimes, believe it or not, can't even get through the front door of our parishes. Mm-hmm. And so we have an effort that looks a little different. It's not so much of a small group study, but it's basically like, what are we going to do to organize and start really being a place where people feel the hospitality of the Christian church, and for all of us. So there's the Removing Barriers effort. We have several different pieces. We have something on marriage, conflict resolution, called The Art of Fighting, which is a little shorter. And then we have several coming up. I don't know, can I talk about what's coming up? Even if
absolutely. I would love that. Okay. I want you to absolutely share all that, because I'm excited about what's coming up as well.
So we're so excited. I mean, and how God has provided. I wish I could tell you all the back end stories of what's happening, because it's hilarious. But we have been pushed a lot to help our people realize really the tenets of the faith, and to better understand like the liturgical life of the church. And so the first thing that will come out, God willing, it will come out. The first thing next year is a program on the Divine Liturgy, with a particular focus on why and how we prepare. James, you like that? That's good. And Father Sotirios, I see you.
Michelle, I can't tell you, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's what I do best. Sorry, but I can tell you how excited I am about that, because that's the most important part of what we do, right? We do it every week. We do it at least once a week. And today was a huge feast day in the church. Yeah,
joyous feast, by the way. I didn't
joyous feast, right? We skipped it over.
Everybody.
Happy feast day to all who celebrate the Holy Cross. But preparing for liturgy is something that we kind of have neglected, even during the pandemic, but even before the pandemic, right? And so tell us about that project and what's happening.
I think so many of us have the same struggle. I'm in ministry, and I'm the girl who comes in with such little quiet and calm. I mean, I've got 4 kids. It's like climbing Mount Everest trying to get into church on a Sunday. So having kind of that practical application and a little arsenal, a little toolbox of things to help us understand, why is it important to get prepared well? How do we get prepared well? What do we do when we leave liturgy? All of these questions, I think, apply to so many of us. And, what we keep talking about with our writing team is we would never go to a football game as a football player without some preparation. We wouldn't go into the school and take a test without some preparation. We wouldn't go to work that way. We wouldn't parent that way. But for some reason, we can get really disconnected, and we go into church and we don't realize why we don't feel something, but we don't even know and haven't properly prepared. So the kind of question that we're trying to solve with this program is, how can we prepare? Why do we prepare? And what fruit could be born from that, so that we can go forth, right, when we leave? So we're super excited about it. We, God willing, will begin filming in just a few weeks, and it's fun. It's getting to the fun phase.
That's
So,
awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's good. We're excited.
There'll be printed materials as well for people, and they'll have things like that to be able to utilize also.
Sure. So all of the resources that we create, there are a few things that, we kind of have some criteria of what you can kind of do at home. So for example, the art of fighting is really a nice conversation starter. And there's nothing there that could even be even a little bit sketchy to do outside of the realm of the parish. For anything that's really teaching deep theology that our clergy need to have a voice in or would want to have a voice in, we're always going to point people back to the local community to do that with their priest or whoever he designates. And so with that being said, it's really important for us that we make it easy on our clergy. I mean, most of us are either from a clergy family, or we are married to clergy, or have siblings that are clergy, or whatever it is. And we understand that we ask our clergy to do thousands of things at the same time, and there's no way, right? You can't be at a funeral and doing, the liturgy for the Holy Cross and, taking care of your own wife and family, and at the same time being ready to make movies for a Bible study. So we do that for you. And so, yes, there will be printed materials, but anything that we do will have hopefully a plug and play aspect for the priest or his leader.
Very good. And then Michelle, I also wanted to say, you mentioned climbing Mount Everest to get to church on Sundays. You've got 4 kids of your own. And then earlier you said that you've been doing church ministry or youth ministry for over 20 years. As a parent and as a youth worker, what do you see as the greatest issue, greatest struggles that we have today as parents and then also as youth workers? Because I don't know if they're the same or if they're different or if they're related, one bleeds into the other. And
yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. And I mean, I don't want to get squirmy and not actually answer the question, Father, but I will tell you, I'm not sure that there's one greatest that would apply to everybody, at least in my experience and what I'm seeing. So I believe for each young person right now, I mean, first of all, they experience everything so differently. And so every young person's struggle feels so unique and important to them. So just by way of an example, I'll just use my own kids as an example, even though this may not even apply to them. But if you were to take my 4 kids, one of them may really be dealing with stress, right? Our kids have a lot of stress, like even just the workload that they undertake. And that might be a really pressing issue for one, while the other one is navigating isolation or depression or disappointment or something, right? So I think I would hesitate to say that there's a blanket greatest struggle, but on the flip side, if you were to ask me what Faithtree deals with in our youth, in our work with the youth, what we deal with most actively is anxiety right now. So many people, I am dealing with anxiety, right? I mean, rightly so, I would say, because gosh, there's so much that our young people and we face these days that is, I mean, the world feels turned upside down, right? So we interface with the world way differently than we did 18 months ago. We have totally new rules of engagement. I mean, we were laughing, my husband and I would never have talked to someone about their medical history or like what vaccines they take or I would never have done that. And that's just kind of standard now, right? So all of that, things that were taboo have kind of changed. I think physical security and sovereignty over certain decisions have kind of changed. And so those are huge sources of anxiety for our young people. So I'd probably say that's the greatest struggle that we see.
I have to agree with you on that, and that's really huge. Let me ask you then, also as we move forward, there might be other people that have questions as well. And if anybody does, you can use the chat to ask a question, or if you want to raise your hand and ask a quick question, we can do that as well. So Noel, if you keep an eye on that for us, that'd be great. But Michelle, your brother is a priest as well, Father Chris Salami in Phoenix, right? Yes. And he has a great program called Warrior Saints. I want to give him a little plug as well, because he works hard on that and asks for people to be warrior saints. Let me ask you, how is it that a brother and a sister are so involved in the Orthodox Church today? Like, how is it that you're writing content, you're doing stuff like that, and he became a priest? Like, what happened in your house? Like, you just in holy water every day? Like, what was going on?
Anyway, listen, we're both, I won't speak for him. He's brilliant and amazing. I'm a hot mess, so you can't say it. Everybody should just run. For us, it was non-optional. So we had no option. When I was in college, I missed 2 Sundays in a row for work. It wasn't like I was out partying, having a great time, but I missed 2 Sundays in a row because I was working. And I can remember the second Sunday, my mother called me and said, "Did you go to church? How was church?" And I said, "I actually didn't go today. I had to go to work." And she said, "Okay, well, I'm not paying for you to be a heathen. So you can either go to church or you can come home." And that was it.
Real quick, though, we said you were in school in Boston and your mom is living in Southern
In
California.
Los Angeles, that's right.
So you're way far away from mom.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't get any further unless you left the country, right?
Yeah.
So she's calling, you missed 2 Sundays and it was non-optional.
It was just
Okay.
non-optional. And I think that was a really useful thing for both my brother and I. I mean, I think, God called him to ministry early. We have framed in my mother's house a picture that he drew when he was like 3 of him as a priest standing before an altar. So I think he kind of always knew. But for me, I think it's what our family did. And so in that, God is gracious because it grows.
Right.
So.
It totally grows. And your brother was a good friend at the seminary. I neglected to keep in touch with him and would love to reignite that friendship as you and I have. But I know that Father Sotiri Rusakis is on here, and I think they were classmates. Father Sotiri.
Yes, Father Chris and I were classmates for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Michelle, it's been a minute.
That is so great. That is so great. Well, good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
I was also lucky because when he was at Holy Cross, I got to hang out a lot on campus because I lived down the street and I was the one with a car. He didn't have a car. So I got to really get entrenched in the life of Holy Cross when I was there, which was great.
Yeah, we have the stories of hanging out at the Cheesecake Factory out there and having fun and seeing what a bunch of students can pull together and get a bunch of appetizers and eat. Those were good days. Those were good days. Michelle, I love it. I want to see, Noel, do we have any questions or anybody posing any questions on Facebook or on chat?
We have 2 questions.
Okay, great.
One for Michelle, you mentioned a couple of times that you made the collaborative effort around creating this content pan-Orthodox. Can you talk more about that, about the process of arranging that and how important it was?
For sure. So we really, truly, as a core value at Faithtree, believe that every effort in the Orthodox Church needs to be representative of all of us. We're one church. And so we will not, whether it's on our board or whether it's in a product, we will not go forward until everybody's at the table. And so that's something we believe very passionately. And so the way that we do that, well, number one, so to be clear, to make sure that we fall under authority and we answer to someone. We're a nonprofit. We're a 501c3. So if I wanted to create the Church of Michelle, I could probably do that, but that's not who we are. We're Orthodox Christians that don't fall under one archdiocese. So we intentionally fall under every archdiocese, if you will. And the way that we do that is by bringing people who get the blessing of their bishops together on projects. So right now on the liturgy project, we have, I don't know, just under a dozen different priests that have the blessings from their bishops to come and vet the content with us, or seminary professors from either of our seminaries, any of our seminaries. We also believe in what we really love. We call it the abundance mentality. So we're really quick that if you can do it better than we can, we will give it to you and move out of the way or help support, because again, it's one church. So we have a lot of kind of protocol mechanisms in place to make sure that happens, but it's a definite core value for Faithtree.
Michelle, I love that you said that about the collaboration and that you would give it over and step out of the way, because recently I got an email from Faithtree. I'm on your listserv, and I saw that you were talking about Steve Christoforo's effort with effective church ministry that they're doing. And so
I was from the rooftops. That's so good. Have you seen that?
I've looked at part of that. Yeah, so these are all great things, right? That we need to collaborate and look at, and like you said, we're all one church. Really good. Noel, I think you said there was another question as well.
Yeah, you mentioned seeking feedback from the youth themselves, from the kids. Was there anything that surprised you about what they wanted from the program or what they thought?
That's a really good question. Gosh. Well, first of all, the relationship project has been in the works for over 5 years now. So I have to go back to when we really surveyed them or met with them. Here's what I know for sure. I think our young people expressed, and it was kind of surprising to me. It was not surprising to many of the youth workers who had actually worked in the capacity of like full-time ministry, but they really expressed a desire to disagree. So they wanted a place where they could come with those things that they believed and those things they were struggling to believe. And so hearing that articulated was actually quite beautiful, because it allowed us to kind of back off for a second and listen, which, I mean, that's good ministry, right? Is when you're just listening, which we don't do so well all the time. And the other thing that I did find very surprising is that we asked, and we had like 600 of them or something, take this survey of priests and parents, and they told us unanimously that the struggles were very similar: anxiety, cutting, suicidal ideation, stress in school. Like there wasn't a lot of deviation, which I actually found surprising. And it didn't matter. We polled young adults as well as teenagers, and really the struggles were legit and they were pretty in sync. So that was kind of surprising.
Very good. Well, you said you mentioned cutting, and you mentioned, and it just sparked something that we're dealing with here locally in our county with just different things. Without getting into too much detail, is Faithtree limited to just Orthodox Christians, or how are you seeing it? How are you seeing a response from the greater Christian church?
It's really interesting that you asked that, because it's timely. So about, Father, 3 weeks ago, maybe, our audience went from about, on any given project, between like 5,000 and 10,000 people, which were mostly the Orthodox folks in our audience, to 4 million, which was hilarious, but also kind of a gut punch for those of us who were like, what do we do now? Because we actually became partners with a streaming service for the mainline Christians called Right Now Media. And Right Now Media, the subscriber to a platform on Right Now is the church. And they have like 35,000 churches that subscribe. And then they have 4 million unique viewers subscribe. So in the last 3 weeks, we have just been humbled to see what God has done, because we have Reformed Baptists buying the Relationship Project, and we have Church of the Nazarenes, and we have Church of Christ, and you name it, we are seeing things that we just couldn't believe. And so we're thankful for the opportunity, but yeah, it's changing. The other thing that's happened, we actually got connected when President Trump was in office, and now we've moved over to this administration, but we've worked a lot on suicide prevention for veterans. And so the way that kind of came about was they're trying to equip churches. The Trump administration was trying to equip churches, if you will, with suicide prevention for veterans. And then they said all Americans, because it's such an epidemic in this country. So we did get some exposure there and started working with them. Now there's obviously different issues that we face as a country right now. So it's a little bit more limited with this administration, but that kind of opened us up to mainline Christians as well.
So Michelle, you went from a group of like 3 people sitting in a room in Van Nuys. I'm just trying to get this straight. I really want to cut and play this out. 3 people sitting in a room in Van Nuys, which sounds like the beginning of a joke, to 5,000 to 10,000 people in the Orthodox world, right? And then now 4 million people worldwide have access to Faithtree's resources.
Thank God. I mean, listen, it sounds way swankier than it is on most days. I'm like running around going, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know what we're going to do. But God is good and he keeps providing. But yeah, there were several milestones that were really of great benefit to the effort and to the ministry. And really, as we talk about a lot, the piece that allows us to really evangelize. I never have heard of, people buying Orthodox content from all these different churches. So that part's a real blessing that we feel really humbled to be able to participate in.
Sure. And I told you our successes with using Relationship Project in the times that I've used it, and how it really opened up the hearts of some of the young people that we were working with, and allowing them to really experience and discuss tough situations that were going on in their lives in a safe environment. So you found a great recipe for that as well. I want to ask you, as you continue on Faithtree, where do you see it? Because again, I want to just like review. it started because there was a need at a local level, right? There was a need at the local parish. And then now, almost 10 years later, you're global. I know you're going to say humble, and you really are a humble person about it. Because I'd be standing up at the rooftop yelling it and have like banners and like full page in the LA Times that nobody reads, but I would still pay for it, right? But I'm telling you that I want to know, like, what's next? Like, what is it that what do you want to see happen from Faithtree? Like, what do you want it to be?
So, in all honesty, what Faithtree wants us to be as invisible as possible. We want to see local parishes equipped. We want our priests to be resourced on any of the particular issues that are important for them and for the building of their people. And I mean, we always say we just envision a world that's transformed by God through the local Christian parish and the people in it and the families and communities in it. So what does that look like for Faithtree? I mean, we hope we can offer a huge library of resources to our clergy or our lay leaders to utilize. That's the dream. Always in a nonprofit, and anybody who, I mean, I'm sure those of you who are clergy or who are working in nonprofit, you know, it's always hard to find resources and support to move as quickly as you want to. So we have the formula down pretty well now. And it just takes a little bit of time because we are a small team. We're small. We also, like everybody else during the pandemic, got hit so hard, and we're still kicking. But we wish that the resources were there where we could do 5 projects at once, and God willing, maybe someday. But also, we really don't skip on production value because we think the people in our churches are worth it, and so that takes time. So they always say in film and television, which I know, Father Gary, you have a background, which I also have a background, but in film and television, you get to have 3 things. It can be, you know, quick, it can be good, it can be cheap. You only get to pick 2. So it can't be all 3. So that's kind of what we are up against. But God willing, we'll be able to give, I mean, some of the folks in the Metropolis Family Wellness team, I mean, they're like, we got to do one on Holy Week. That would be amazing. Let's go. So hopefully that'll be in there. We definitely want to start approaching issues that face women in the church. There's so much confusion for women on how do we be godly women in this world that wants us to not be godly women. And what does that look like? So we have a list a mile long of things that we want to approach and kind of unpack, but
I love it. I love it. I'm really excited about what you have in store for everyone and what you're doing and what you're working on. Noelle, one more shot. Any other questions pop up there or anything on social media or on our chat?
Well, I wanted to sort of ask you in response to some of the comments, if somebody wants these resources to be incorporated into their parish, you know, if they want these resources to be available to them to start being incorporated, where do they get started?
Absolutely. So if you go to faithtree.org, that's our website, and it has everything that we have available. And it also has sign up page so you can kind of be in the know of those things. And you can always reach out. I'm Michelle at faithtree.org, info@faithtree.org. You reach out to us, and we're pretty passionate about kind of the customer success piece, if you will. So what that looks like is for anybody who's using one of our resources, we will hold your hand and walk with you every single step of the way. And if that means we talk to you once a week to make sure that, you know, your parish thrives, then that's what we do. The other thing that we also do, this is my favorite part, is we really believe in partnering with our sister churches and organizations through prayer. So if you are running a, you know, Faithtree project or a different program that's offered, and you tell us we're meeting on Tuesday nights at 7 Eastern time, then we have a group of people who are praying for the leader and the people in the group on Tuesday nights at 7 Eastern time. And so we find that to be a really, really impactful way for us to partner and kind of support our brother and sister Orthodox Christians.
Michelle, I'm so glad you mentioned that part of it, because I can tell you that when we were doing it, I know that you had a group of people praying for us here in Camarillo during those Monday nights. And you really can tell, and it's such an important part of what we do as Orthodox Christians. And I love that you instituted that and that you got that going. Tell us more about how you did that, because that's like an intergenerational kind of ministry, right?
Sure. Actually,
older people involved. Yeah.
that actually, and to be honest with you, Father, it's grown. So God willing, and I'd ask you all to pray for us and then sign up, because this is our new thing that's coming in January 1st, God willing. But we're launching a prayer app where we can come together and lift our voices every day. Because really, fervent prayer is something that is really easy to ignore in this day and age, right? And so I even find myself, like, the first place I go when I get up in the morning is that phone. And we go to the news and we go to all the stress, but we always, I don't want to say we always, but it can be so easy not to go to God first. So we're actually trying to help create that habit, because we have seen such fruit from it. So that's coming January 1st. And we are hopeful that priests and their parishes will go through that together every day. The other thing I will tell you is, it started really, my children go to a Christian school here in Santa Clarita, California, and there's a group that was motivated to pray together every Wednesday. And the fruit that was born from that was absolutely humbling, to see people going before God, praying for the safety of our students, praying for whatever, a new building, praying that there would be reconciliation between whatever it was. And so that was kind of the impetus. And there was a group at St. Michael's where Faithtree was started, and they took it on, and it's borne a ton of fruit. It's borne a ton of fruit.
You mentioned Santa Clarita and praying for the student safety. You had an issue out there with some violence, right? A couple of years ago, just before the pandemic, or during the pandemic?
I know it was right before.
Right before, right?
Down the street, my kids were less than a mile away, and we couldn't get to them.
Right.
That was terrifying.
Yeah, and you see how all these things kind of ring so close and true to our hearts, right? And we're all kind of connected in that way. And how, when I heard Santa Clarita, I thought about you and your kids immediately, and I have family out there as well. So we're all connected in that, that way. And so to be connected in prayer is even better, right? And makes us even stronger. I'm thrilled because I'm looking on my screen and I see Christine Zeppos, who is next week's guest on our show. And as I'm thinking about this, Christine would be a great resource for you as well, Michelle. And you know how
I want to meet her. Hi, Christine.
I love plugging people together as well. And Christine, tell if you just take a second, Christine, and just talk about what you're doing for the Metropolis. Don't give away too much, because we want it for next week, but also what you do in real life to kind of tease next week. But and then your thoughts on what Michelle is doing, because I think the two of you would kill it if I put you guys in the same room.
Well, I was thinking the same thing, and I'm so glad to learn of all the wonderful services that you offer, Michelle, and looking for ways to get that connection, so more of the youth and more of the parishes can really utilize the resources that you have to make it flourish. But the Father's question, very involved with the youth, and we're going to be coordinating Southern California youth more formally, and I'm working with Father to get the Goya in particular. I know that there's a new resurgence for young adult, but also the Goyans connected, and there's different things we're going to be talking about next week about that. That's Fathering Father's lead in formalizing that. And my day job, I actually am a former dean of a school of education, and I oversaw and still oversee transformational leadership and change. I developed a doctoral program in that. So work with superintendents and college presidents throughout the US on how to make transformational change. And I'm looking at ways to help leadership formalize through the church as well. And actually I'm on Philoptohos right now nationally, and chair of the leadership committee. So we're looking at ways to do mentoring and networking for young women, different leadership skill development, and also different ways to get our youth to get those leadership skills early on, so that they can utilize them not only in work, but also in their home lives as well. So just a little bit more.
I have 15 people I want you to call. I'll get your number from Father Gary, because that's awesome. Very, very nice to meet you.
I wanted to say that both of you are strong women in the Orthodox Church, right? Like, and both of you, we've had these conversations before. And Noelle, you are too, from what I'm learning as we work these weeks as we go on. Tell us what, Christine, I'm going to save this question for you for next week, so be prepared for it for next week. But Michelle, women in the church, like, you have found a role in the church where you're doing really well. Like you found a niche and you're going great, right? Like, even though you say you pull your hair out and you don't know which way is up sometimes. And I love that about you, because you're so transparent in that, right? and you make it look easy. You really, really do. But I know how hard it really is to raise 4 kids, and the personal struggles that you've been to with your child had. I don't get too much into it, but you had to deal with some personal things as well in your parenting.
Yeah, we had a sick
encourage young women who might be listening or that will listen to this about their role in the church.
I certainly can't speak for every woman in the church, but I'll tell you what I believe. I believe strongly that equal roles does not mean equal worth. So I would just stop that. We don't all have to do the same thing. And I think there is this trend for young women in this country where we sometimes lose the feminine genius. So that's the first thing I believe really strongly. That doesn't always go over well with everyone. So forgive me if anybody.
I love that you said it. I love that you said it.
I very much believe that. So even in our household, I have 3 boys and a girl, the girl being the youngest, who completely runs the show, lest we make any mistakes about it. But I do believe, I don't believe she has to do everything that her brothers do to be considered worthy. I also believe that we have the perfect example in the Theotokos, which she, in so many ways, I hate to use it, it sounds trite, but decreased so that he, could be most appreciated and most, seen. And we see that in Cana, right? Like, we're not always willing to do that these days. So when I think of young women in the church, I think we have to start studying the examples of those who did it so well, starting with the Mother of God. And I would just say that God has made each one of us so very specifically with our own unique gifts and our own unique skills on purpose, for a purpose. So part of that is really on us to figure out what that is and then to live into it, right?
What a great answer, Michelle. Really. I mean, I got the chills. I got the chills.
I'm like the world's best cheerleader. I want to be on this podcast all day. I feel like $1 million.
You call me Donahue. No one's throwing chairs on this talk show. Georgia, I need to see your notes too, because I see that Georgia keeps taking crazy notes, and I love it. I love it. But Michelle, tell us, we're running up on the end of the hour. It went by so fast, and I want to ask you, best advice you ever got. Best advice you ever got.
I mean, actually, that's an easy one, because it kind of goes back to the question you asked before about why, did my brother and I stay in the church. But really the best advice would probably come from my mom, who, as it pertains to youth, she told us very early, if you want your kids to love the church, then you have to take them there a lot. And so her goal was always to, make sure we all knew that, with the old adage, which is, if your kids miss church, eventually they won't miss church. And so that's played out really well in our family, because you can see God working. They are developing a love for the church, but they're there. Their social networks are there. Their relationships with their clergy and leaders are there. And so it has become kind of a safe place. Not a perfect place, right? I'm not saying that, there are those parishes that just have all of the bells and whistles. We have a small parish in Southern California with just a lot of love, and a priest who loves them. So
He really does.
That's probably the best advice I've gotten.
That's awesome. Thank you. I'm going to give it to Noelle to close out with some business and the things that we need to do. Michelle, I want to thank you for your time. I know that your time is limited, and to squeeze us in for this hour, I really, really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to next week with Christine Zeppos being part of this as well, and growing this program and moving forward. It's called Armed with Faith. So my hope is that people leave after the hour with something that they can utilize to strengthen their faith and to inspire other people to do great things as well. And Michelle, you've totally done that. And I want to tell you that I'm thrilled to be considered a friend, and thrilled that you are my first guest on the show. And God bless everything that you do, and multiply your efforts and the things that you've got. So thank you so much. All the best.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun to be with you all.
Awesome.
Thank you, Michelle and Father Gary. I definitely learned a lot today. Just a few announcements about our upcoming programs. As I mentioned, you can find all the upcoming programs for the next week on our calendar. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn for daily updates. Every Monday, we have Facebook Live Adult Education at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Michael Haldas. We also have every Tuesday, of course, Armed with Faith. So definitely tune in, same time every week. And as Father Gary mentioned, Christine is our guest next week. We have every Wednesday, Facebook Live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, The Real Deal with Father Michael Marcantoni. And starting again on October 6th, we will have Living Icon with Father John back on Wednesdays. That's at 7 p.m. So October 6th will be the next Living Icon program. And then this Thursday for Let's Talk Live, also at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Zoom, we have the first in our series about remembering our Orthodox heroes, featuring Father George Livanos. We're going to be talking to his friends and family and the people that knew him well, and remembering his life. So that will be really wonderful. We have a lot of other things lined up for the fall. We have a marriage enrichment seminar coming up in November, and we also have coming soon Orthodox crafts for kids for our major feast days. So look for that as well. And any questions that come up during the week that we didn't get to today, you can always email us at info@myocn.net. We can bring it up on the next show or forward it to the appropriate people. So definitely stay engaged, and thank you all for being here.
Awesome. Thank you, Noel. Thanks again, Michelle. Thank you, everybody, for being here. God bless. Have a fantastic